Hey there, Rub-a-Dub subs, it's Blackmetalwerewolf making a brand new video for you this week. And today I will be doing another sewing video. I've had a couple patches sitting around my desk for the last couple months, and they've been really burning a hole in my pocket, so to say. So I thought it was finally time to sit down and throw them on this new vest that I've been making. Now I know it's been a little while since I've done a sewing video, but I remember the last couple ones I've done, a handful of people have given me some pretty useful tips when it comes to sewing. So if you didn't know, I essentially had to teach myself how to sew a couple of years ago because I wanted to make a battle vest, but every time I asked someone to teach me how to sew, they'd ask me why, and I'd tell them why I wanted to make one, and they would always refuse to show me because they thought it was a stupid reason to want to learn how to sew. So I ended up having to teach myself how to do it. And as you can see, I've created a few bad habits just by teaching myself. And since I've been sewing like this for so long, the habits have really been ingrained in myself. So it's not that I've been ignoring anyone's advice, because from what I've read, it seems to be relatively good advice. It's just that every time I sit down to sew, I can't seem to break my bad habits. I essentially need a teacher to correct me when I'm doing something wrong. And it's hard to do that just through a comment, right? It was funny, a little while ago, a woman that I work with was telling me she actually sat down and watched one of my videos, and it was one of my sewing videos, the first one I did. And she said she felt so bad for me because she knows how to sew, and she would have been more than willing to teach me how to do it. And when she sees me sew, she can clearly see the bad habits that I've gotten into. So, it was actually quite sweet of her to suggest that, seeing as the woman's like 30 years older than me, 25, 30 years older than me, right? And just sweet old woman offering to teach me how to sew, right? That was pretty cute, but, it would have been nice for someone to actually teach me how to sew when I actually wanted to learn instead of having to teach myself. Even though I did teach myself, I do seem to be able to get the patches on there relatively well, though it might not be as quick and as efficient as they could have been. Hey, they're still on there. So as you can see there, I just put a Bathory patch on there, and now I just moved on to an Immortal Pure Holocaust patch too. I got that Bathory patch from, I can't remember the name of the store, but it was a store in Niagara Falls. They have like a rock and roll or wax museum on the upper level of it, and the bottom level of it is a store that sells posters, t-shirts, patches. So when I went to Niagara Falls, I got a shit ton of t-shirts and patches, and that Bathory patch was one of them there. And that Immortal patch I got from the Metalhead box, I believe, a couple months ago. So these have been sitting around my place for quite some time, so it really is about time that I got them up on my vest. I also noticed that a lot of people suggested that I should just get a sewing machine, because they say it's just so much more efficient and, easier and quicker just to use a sewing machine. And I'm sure there's no doubt that using a sewing machine probably is a hell of a lot more efficient and quicker than doing it by hand. But to me, when I do it by hand, it feels a lot more personal that way. When I am putting together a battle vest, I'm not looking for perfection. As long as it's semi-straight and it stays on, that's all I really care about. And also, when I'm doing it, I really like to listen to music or watch television or watch a movie or whatever. So it's not like when I sew a patch, it's some big chore that I hate doing. I really do enjoy doing it. So if it was something that I hated doing and I just wish I could get it over with, then yeah, maybe buying a sewing machine might be worth it. But really at this time, I don't have a place for it. I don't want to spend the money on it. It doesn't seem worth the money to me in any way, shape, or form. So sure, it's a good suggestion, but I like doing it this way, so I don't see why I would change doing it the way I like, what's funny? Every time I do any form of sewing now, be it on camera or off, I can't help but think back to whenever I did that video on fake battle vests. Because when I first did my research into it, I assumed what I had read online and what people had told me was just satire, and that was just like a big joke on metalheads. But the more I researched into it, obviously, the more I realized that it was a legit thing, that companies were indeed mass-producing these generic vests and jackets to make. So I guess people who don't have the talent or inspiration to make their own can still feel like an individual and whatever. But of course, it totally defeats the purpose, right? Because you're not an individual if you're buying something that's totally mass-produced. Individuality kind of comes from making something with your own two hands, not from buying something that someone else made in mass quantities. So I just think it's funny that every time, I do sewing now, I can't help but think back to that. People actually going out of their way to buy something when they could just as easily make it on their own, right? So I know it's just funny to me now. So as you can see, I'm on my third patch there. I did a Bathory, Immortal Pure Holocaust, and now I'm doing Immortal at the Heart of Winter. Clearly, Immortal is my favorite black metal band, so I think this is probably the 5th Immortal patch I have on this particular vest, but to me, you can never get enough Immortal. Though I do have to admit that as I'm just watching myself do this to record the audio, it is bothering me that I only have 3 patches along the shoulders. When looking back at it now, I can clearly see that I can tighten them up and get a 4th patch on there. Obviously, I wasn't going to redo that on camera, but it is probably something I will do off camera to, continue with in the future. So as you can see, I got the 3 patches there, but they can obviously be rearranged so I can at least get 1 more patch on there and make it look a bit cooler. So yeah, those are the 3 new patches I got on my vest this time. So that's it for today's video. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of today's video, checking out some of my past videos, and sharing them with a few of your friends while you're at it. If you want to keep up with me on a more daily basis, you can follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. I also have a P.O. box open. All of that info is down in the description. I also have a handful of patches left for sale, so if you'd like to get your very own, you can click the annotation on the screen. There is also a link down in the description. Overall, thank you very much for watching, guys, and don't forget to stay brutal.